we're telling a timeless story, and you're a timeless kind of guy. And so it doesn't really matter how many people show up or don't show up. It's really wild, the stories that we get to tell. Got Isaac DeBomb playing in the background. It's a pretty good day. And I'm here with Command Sergeant Major retired James Ross. Golly, what a cool dude. And we're going to tell some stories and hang out tonight. I'm so excited. We figured out our sound and stuff was good, so we just jumped right into it. For those folks that might be watching or whatever that might not know, this started when Sergeant Robert Maggott got sick. And I found out about it, and I called him up and I tried to record our conversation because his memory was going. And I thought to myself, how dare we lose these memories and not share them? Because Maggot was a mentor of mine, just like you were a mentor of mine, and so many others that we were mentors to and mentored us. We would love to hear their story. And then, so I called Command Sergeant Major Adams. I called Craig Evans, First Sergeant retired, who was my first private, and I ended up doing. We've done over 150 interviews now with folks that were heroes of mine, obviously. And Craig, doggone it, like he won't even interview me. He will support and help, and I love you. Thanks, Kyle. I love you, man. But it's so neat. So I'm here with Sergeant Major retired James Ross, and such a wonderful, wonderful leader, and air assault. And I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for everything. You have enlightened eyes. I don't know if anybody's ever told you this before, but there are certain people that I've been around before that when I look into their eyes, I see something that is special, and you're one of those guys. Thanks for doing what you do. I know that it goes over your head. You're like, hey, well, I'm just doing what I do, and that's the right answer. But the reality of it is that certain leaders rise to the top. That it just happens. It just you see it, you see it, and you were one of the ones that did it, man. And I applaud you. I salute you. I'm proud of you. You are a hero of mine. You weren't a hero. You weren't a leader that said you're bad and I hate you as you stepped on them up to the top. You built teams, and we were all part of those teams, and I was a proud member of it. I was a proud member of it. So we're going to tell a story or two tonight and hang out for a while. I saw you got what are you drinking?
I just got a little bourbon. It's what we do in North Alabama.
There you go. Amen. Amen. So tell me a little bit about you. Where are you from?
Battle Creek, Michigan, home of Kellogg cereal.
Oh, the home of cereal.
That's
Oh
right.
wow.
Yeah, I have an identical twin brother, John, and he's a director of marketing for Kellogg's, working right at the corporate headquarters in Battle Creek. So a lot of people don't know that, but I do have an identical twin brother.
Oh my gosh. So let me ask this question. So you're an identical twin, and you are obviously successful, wonderful, amazing human being. Your brother had the same level of success?
Yeah, he's done really well. He's done really well. The Army was
Oh
not in
wow.
his equation, but when I turned 18, I was ready to leave Battle Creek and go see the world. So, but he took a different path
So
and
so
worked out good for both of us.
so when you were a kid and you were twins, did you get dressed up every day and have to wear the same outfit and prance around together, or did y'all do something different?
Now, when we were really, really little, we've got a few photos where they dressed us alike. But as we got older, we basically shared our clothes, so there was no way to dress alike. So
Oh, that's cool. So you prevented that by just deciding that you would share clothes.
just the way it worked out. But Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, what was it like to have a twin? Did you guys, y'all have like a secret communication language and can you feel things? Do you have any of those sensations?
No, we're really close, and we're actually very much alike with our personalities. But no ESP, or if he's sick, I don't wake up in the middle of the night and call him or any of that stuff.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. So, I nature, nurture, all those kinds of things. It's obvious that whatever happened, you guys made it through, and I love it. I love it. What? So his name was John. Is that right?
Yeah, John. Yep.
Oh, so John and James Ross. That's proper. That's like
Yeah.
proper. What kind of upbringing was? What was your dad like? What was your family like?
My parents got divorced when we were, I think, two and a half. So really, we were raised by my mom, single mom. She was a music teacher, and two older sisters, and just kind of a typical upbringing, in Southwest Michigan. We were fairly poor, but it was one of those deals where you didn't really know you were poor. You never felt poor. I never went without meals or anything, but we didn't have a whole lot. Um, but we got a close knit family, and I think some of the hardships we endured were character building for all of us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Do you remember a time as a kid when you like almost got in trouble but got away with something?
Well, I know my brother was really good at French in high school, so we used to switch out, and we eventually got caught when when the teacher called on me to do some vocabulary in class, and my brother read.
Oh no. Oh no, that's crazy, right? Right. So what was did something glitched out there? I didn't hear the end of that story. Did you find school to be easy?
I was not a great student, probably a typical 2.0 through the, getting a little bit more seasoned. I think I was kind of a late bloomer when it came to academics, but I eventually got my master's degree through UTEP, and got that before I got out. And I had a 3.95 when I graduated UTEP, and I had a 4.0 when I got my bachelor's degree. So I figured it out. I was just really late to the game.
Amen. Amen. It's interesting. It's interesting. The army really matured me up about what competition is what it was. Right when I looked around and realized that there was 40 people here that kind of all wanted to be the either the best or totally almost didn't care. I decided to be the best, and it was an easy kind of thing for me to really jump into. What made you join the army?
I just I knew I wasn't quite ready for college, and I was looking for something that I could do. I didn't have a whole lot of financial resources, and I had a stepsister, and her husband was in the army, and he was always talking about his college benefits that he got for joining. So I ended up joining. I entered in September '85, but when I joined, I was going to join the U.S. Navy, and I was going to be a corpsman. And my dad was in the Korean War, and he was in the Navy. So I thought, okay, I'm going to join the Navy. And the day I was supposed to sign my contract, the Navy recruiter was late, and it was really bad weather. And the Army team invited me into the recruiting station on the Army side, and 30 minutes later, I was committed to the Army. So you can imagine how that changes your life. But I was this close to joining the Navy.
Oh wow! Hey, The early bird gets the worm, right? If you're there, Johnny on the spot, sign them up, boys, sign them up.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
what did
I signed up
what?
for 2 years. You know, I was on a 2 year enlistment, and I was going to get about 18,000 for college, and that was my plan all along. And ended up going off to Germany. I was a combat engineer when I first joined, and that's how I spent my first 5 years in the Army. And I really liked the Army, but I didn't love being a combat engineer. And so I was a young sergeant, and they had a program where you could, they called it the Bear program, where you could get a little bonus. And I went into Patriot missiles, not knowing anything about Patriot missiles. Became a 16 Tango.
Oh wow! So you were originally a combat engineer. Tell me about being a combat engineer? Because I know what being a tango is about. So let's explore being a combat engineer. What's that all about?
Well, I was in Germany, so our whole mission was focused on the Fulda Gap and the defense of the Fulda Gap in case the Russians cross the border. So a lot of our training was in preparation of our wartime mission, and it was pretty thankless. We'd be up all night in the training areas. Excuse me, and we'd be up all night doing wire obstacles or laying minefields. Really hard work, or dealing with concertina wire and triple strand and the whole 9 yards. And we'd do it all night long. And then we would link up with like an infantry or an armored task force, and they've been sleeping all night, and they would and go into battle. And which was all the time. You literally felt like you were on the clock 24 hours a day. And I just knew that that wasn't the career that I was looking for. So thank God for air defense.
Amen. So were you good? So you were a sergeant in the engineers. What was it like becoming a sergeant and looking around and being responsible for other soldiers? Did that go well with you?
Yeah, I think the highest position I got as an engineer was a like an assistant squad leader. So really, I was looking to my squad leader, who was a lot more seasoned than I was, and really just I was always eager to learn. And I realized, one of my observations when I first joined the Army was it seemed like all the leaders, and I'm talking like platoon level, like platoon sergeant on down, but all of the leaders, they were in those positions because they had been in the Army for quite a while. And it didn't seem to me like the cream was rising back in my early days. It just seemed like, this guy's been in the Army 15 years and he's a, sergeant, or he's a staff sergeant. And, and they weren't bringing a whole lot of leadership, at least early in my career. It was more, I've been in for a long time, so you got to do what I say. But not a lot of inspiration.
I used to tell the story about my squad leader. My first squad leader used to grab his collar and he says, "I staff sergeant, I in charge." And I wrote an article about it. If that's what you got to do, if that's how you're exercising your influence by grabbing your collar and shoving it in your private's face, I don't know. You might think about it next time. And yeah, so you took the Bear program, and I'm familiar with that. And you got a little
Mhm.
cash, and
Little bonus.
you reenlisted. Yeah, Teddy Knight did the same thing, right? Teddy
Okay.
Knight came over. He was 11 Bravo, and he became a 16 Romeo, and so you became a 16 Tango. What year was this?
I think it was right around 1990, 91.
Oh wow! So
Yeah.
right after the Gulf War and
I spent
everything.
about 3 years in Germany, in Darmstadt, Germany, with the 547th Engineers, and then I was PCS to Fort Riley, Kansas, with the First Engineers. And while I was at Fort Riley, they they initially stuck me in, and they made me I was a corporal, and they made me the battalion legal NCO. So, I'm doing all the UCMJ and all the paperwork and everything, and it was a desk job, and it wasn't that challenging. But I remember we had a really good sergeant major, and he was a good role model, and he took a liking to me, and they ended up sending me to the NCO of the Quarter Board. And when it was all said and done, I was the 1st Infantry Division 1989 NCO of the Year, which was the first time like that, definitely in my military career, but probably the first time in my life where like I did something and people were like recognizing me and patting me on the back. And I kind of figured out like, this is not that hard. I can do this, and was promoted very quickly. And, it kind of lit a fire on me. And, obviously it worked out. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So in 89, you were the NCO of the year for you said the 1st Armor Division?
1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley.
1st Infantry Division at Fort Riley, Kansas. And you were a sergeant?
Yep.
Wow. Look, that's huge. Like I was the NCO of the year for the 82nd in 92 as a sergeant. And that's a big deal. So tell me about the pomp and circumstance that went around that. That was a great deal of pomp and circumstance that came with being the NCO of the year.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I remember I had to give remarks it was probably like a Memorial Day or a Veterans Day. And I spoke right before the governor spoke, the governor of Kansas. And I just remember being petrified, but it was obviously a great experience. And then they allowed you to travel. There were several trips through the leadership of the 1st Infantry Division where like the 1st Infantry Division had a big society and they had their annual meeting. Well, they flew me and the Soldier of the Year to that event. And I remember sitting at the head table with the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Gordon Sullivan. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but sitting right next to him. And, so you're being exposed to really senior leaders. And of course, the division leadership really, took you under their wing. And again, it was really the first time where I felt like, wow, this is, pretty great because, I'd like to say I'm a humble person, but when, people were patting me on the back and, treating me great for that entire following year, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was loving every minute of it. And it really kind of put me on the path to, hey, instead of just getting out and going to college, this Army thing might work out after all. So that's kind of where I shifted into more of a career mindset, and let's see how far I can take this.
Wow, that is so cool that you were the NCO of the year for the 1st Infantry Division. That is a big deal. I went through all kinds of huge competition to do it and land nav and all that kind of good stuff, and it was just an amazing
Yeah.
time in my life. It's neat that but I guess you were an engineer at that time, right? You were an engineer. For me to win it as an air defender in the 82nd was a big deal, and I'm sure being an engineer still is a big deal. God, as a sergeant, you won that. That's huge.
Yeah, it was pretty fantastic. And years later, I actually went through the Audie Murphy and I went through the Sergeant Morales process and was selected for both. And, during that whole journey of becoming the NCO of the Year, it was predominantly boards. And for whatever reason, I had a really good memory. And obviously, I had a good enough presentation. And I got real good at boards. And really, that was, one of the ways that they could identify you for, stuff like Sergeant Audie Murphy or NCO of the Year or Morales and all the things that go along with that, because then you also have that expectation of, you are not a follower, you are somebody that people are looking to, and you got to own that. And
Yeah, there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in that. Tell me about becoming a 16 Tango.
Yeah, it was a good experience. I went to Bliss, and I was in like a transition AIT, but we were more like we uh, we had like half a class of AIT students and half a class of transition, but um, I had really good instructors. They treated us like adults. There wasn't a whole lot of drama, the occasional Class A inspection or whatnot, but we were living for the most part. I think you could live in the barracks, but most of us went out and a couple of us shared an apartment and had our own thing going on, and we would go to class every day and physical fitness training and all that. And at the end of the day, we could just go off and just like any other soldier at Fort Bliss that wasn't in a training status. So it really wasn't that bad. And I learned a lot. I will tell you, 14 Tango, I was never the problem and needed help fixing it. I really relied on my leadership abilities, and empowered those who are a lot more technically oriented than myself. And I rode that because, um, again, I could, I think my and getting the best out of folks. At one point in my career, I spent a year embedded with the Royal Saudi Air Defense Forces with a U.S. military training mission to Saudi Arabia. And I spent 15 months literally training Saudis, in the first Saudi Patriot Battalion. And, I think I really, my skill sets really were set up for success in that type of environment. Trainees that, believe it or not, they were eager to learn. And, I could, take my skills as a trainer and really show them what right looks like, even with the differences in culture. And
So don't you find when you're training folks from other nationalities, when you get to that individual soldier level, how easy it is to make a connection with another human being?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It doesn't matter. The folks I was dealing with were a lot like the soldiers in the U.S. Army. They weren't officers, so they didn't come from the higher families, and but they were looking to have a career and they wanted to be successful and they were eager to learn. So when you have that, it's not as difficult to train them.
Amen. 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 So what you talked about being a 16 Tango and leveraging your leadership skills versus your wrench turning skills. Uh, yeah, I agree, Brett. We're having some connections issues. There's been times, Sergeant Major, you've kind of gone in and out. Just so you know, I don't know what's happening, but I think we're back on a great connection right now. Um,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. What is it? What is it that you're? What? Tell me about your personal life during this time. What was going on? In young Sergeant and Private Ross's time. What was happening during these years personally?
Well, I got married to a German girl at 19, and we were divorced at 22. So I got that early soldier marriage out of the way, and really spent a large part of my mid career single, and unattached, and And then I ended up meeting my wife, Ashley, when I was at the NCO Academy at Fort Bliss. I was the senior instructor at ANOC, and my wife was a soldier at the hospital. She was a mental health technician, and she had graduated college, and she had joined the Army really of the only purpose to pay off her college loans. And so I met her through a mutual friend, and she was getting ready to head off to grad school up in Pittsburgh, where she's from. She was a graduate of University of Pittsburgh, and she was going back there for graduate school. And I convinced her to stay with me and get married, and she ended up getting her master's degree from UTEP, and she's been sticking with me ever since.
I saw the pictures. Y'all have a bevy of beautiful children. Tell me about your children. Brag on those if you don't mind.
And we just moved her in yesterday, and she's just starting her sophomore year. And she had a busy summer. She worked on a movie in Alaska with my sister, who's in the movie industry business. And then she spent 3 weeks in Scotland and London. So she's been traveling all summer, but she's ready to go. And she's a theater and art major. And my son, Jack, is a junior in high school. And it's one of the largest high schools in the state of Alabama. And he's on the varsity basketball team as a junior. So that's, something that I'm extremely proud of. And he's worked really hard. And we're excited to see him play varsity basketball this year. The varsity team almost won the state championship last year. They lost by a point in the state finals. So it's a really elite program, and he's done really well. And he's a good student and a great kid. And then I have a 13-year-old daughter who's in middle school, and she's into makeup and TikTok, and she's pretty much driving me nuts. But 13-year-old girls are not supposed to be easy. So, but she's great too.
Oh, wow.
And we have a bulldog
Oh,
named
wow.
Winston and 2 Shih Tzus named Sarah and Tucker.
Why do I just see you with a bulldog named Winston? I picture you with a bulldog named Winston. Yeah.
Yeah, Winston's my buddy. I work from home, and Winston sits right in my office and snores during my Zoom meetings.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. That is great. That is great. What is it that you liked about being in the army? Were there things in the army that you were like, yeah, I like doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one, I felt like I had it figured out fairly young, and I liked being successful, and I liked being in a career where I felt like not only could I be successful, but there was opportunity to continue to advance. I think that was important to me. And then there's just that brotherhood and sisterhood that you get from serving a higher cause, and it's a career you can be proud of, and very few people across the nation are willing to raise their hand and step up and serve. So I think that appealed to me.
Amen. Amen. Hey, you led a wonderful legacy, and all the way to the top, of your career path. Tell me about, one of your first big like wins or big times where you were like, yeah, like maybe after that NCO of the year, maybe later as a senior NCO.
Um, I had so many unique experiences, both good and bad, and some of the bad ones will shape you too. If you hear some noise, that's my bulldog playing with a bone. He decided to come in here and join the meeting today. Um, I think a lot of success is watching the folks that you're responsible for be successful and grow. And I took a lot of pride in that. Um, one of the things that I can tell you that is probably one of my proudest accomplishments. I went back and it was something that was happening towards the end of my career, but I was a battalion command sergeant major for 2 battalions before I moved down to the brigade level. And let's see, I can give you a list, but I've got like 10 first sergeants that worked for me as a battalion CSM that all made E9. And that is to this day one of the proudest accomplishments. And I can name some.
Do you have a list?
Yeah, I think I
name them. Name them.
some. So McCrae, McNish, Holmes, Porter, Janice, Jacobitz, Adams, Brett Smith, Signal, Steve Bram, Signal, Butch Walker, and Wilfredo Suarez. So all of those individuals served as a first sergeant during some tough years, back in the 31st Brigade and a little bit in the Space Battalion. And, to see those folks go on and make E9, and a lot of those folks made CSM, and many of those folks, have moved on to numerous CSM positions. So, so that's something that obviously I look back with a lot of pride.
Amen. Amen. Who were your mentors? Who was it that took you under their wing? And, you talked about that first sergeant major when you got to the 1st Infantry Division. Tell me who else.
Jordan, way back in the day, he was the post sergeant major at Bliss, but he was my brigade sergeant major before that. And I was on staff duty the day he got notified that he was selected to go up and be the post sergeant major at Bliss. And it just so turned out, I'm a golfer. I've been a lifelong golfer, and he was a golfer. And we actually got to know each other when I was a staff sergeant, and later promoted to sergeant first class in the 31st Brigade when I was at 443 ADA at Fort Hood. So he was a great mentor. And through him, he helped me meet Mark Avery, Wilbur Adams, other great leaders. And I think he helped maybe establish me and maybe my reputation a little bit. And then, Steve Rogers, huge mentor. Charles Williams, when I was an ops sergeant major coming out of the academy, they assigned me or they gave us a wish list, and I put down 1st Cavalry Division, even though SHORAD didn't have operations sergeant majors. And as it turned out, that was the first year they were going to send academy graduates as operations sergeant majors to the divisions. And I got the 1st Cavalry Division. And so as a 16 Tango background, moving into a SHORAD divisional Bradley linebacker unit with Avengers and no experience in it, Charles Williams was my CSM. And he was a phenomenal mentor and really helped teach me the SHORAD way of life. Henry Bacon, Hank Young, Mike Wolford, all sergeant majors that I served under. And, they got some skin off me, but I learned a lot more from them than anything else. And of course, when I moved into space, I had a great mentor, Kevin McGovern, who I know you know well. And Kevin was a phenomenal mentor late in my career and really helped get me on a trajectory that, I was ready to retire after my 1st battalion. Having a great time as a battalion CSM in a Patriot unit. And I had talked to my wife. We were getting and I got a call from Steve Rogers, and he asked me if I would be interested in considering the Space Battalion in Colorado Springs. And I didn't know anything about a Space Battalion in Colorado Springs, but I talked to my wife, and she said, Colorado Springs sounds pretty cool. We'll figure the rest out. And as it turned out, they selected me for it, and I immediately fell under the guidance of my brigade command sergeant major Kevin McGovern, to this day, one of the best friends I've got, and one of the greatest mentors and greatest leaders I ever served with. And you know, you know, one of the
Hey, leaders make a difference. It's very obvious. Kevin McGovern made a difference in my career in two major places, but he and I were never close friends. He was my boss, but I didn't get the friendship part necessarily.
yeah,
I wish and I hope that we can get more of that. I will tell you that uh, I looked up to him. He was my 2-0 alpha when I was at
yeah,
JRTC,
yeah.
and
He always
so
he always had a
that's a
shield up,
big place.
but and you got to work hard to work beyond that shield. But um, he is absolutely one of the top leaders I ever served with. And then I also had guys like Richard Clem and Joe Pritchard. We all came up together, and I really looked at those guys because they were highly successful and really high performers, and they made me better trying to make sure that I was keeping up with them because those were the type of individuals that you wanted to be like, and they would make you better, or they'd roll over you. And I think that having peers like that was also a great benefit.
Oh my gosh, the names that you're calling off just bring chill bumps, right? It's
Yeah.
just so
Yeah.
neat to think about the personalities that you're talking about and the hours that we all spent, together in some way, shape, or form. Whether it was just walking by on the hallway and seeing their pictures on the command board, or preparing to go to some meeting together, and how many QTBs did we all walk
Mhm.
in together going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now,
Yeah.
and all those first sergeants that you named that 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 became sergeant major. But how about how many million that didn't, that stayed right there at first sergeant and served honorably and did a great job? And it is just so awesome to think of all the soldiers that you've touched over your time. Do you remember like a superstar soldier that you have? Do you remember like one that was like, maybe late in your career? He maybe wasn't your soldier, but somebody that came up and was a superstar?
Yeah. I remember watching guys like Tom Egan and Dave Paline and Heather Smith. But probably I can take when I was a staff sergeant, there was a private that came in and I got to know, and his name was Chad McNish. And we ended up being really, really great friends. And not necessarily great friends when I was a staff sergeant, he was a PFC, but Chad was a fast mover, and he moved very quickly. And then years later, hell, we were roommates when I was single and he was single. We were roommates. We shared an apartment in El Paso. And then go 3 years down the road, I'm a CSM and he's one of my first sons. I mean, it was a tight friendship, but it was built on trust and a lot of good times that we can't talk about here.
So, so I gotta ask you, Gabby's Banana Joe's stories. You got to tell one. You got to tell a Banana Joe story or a Gabby story, right?
I could, but I'm not going to. It's
Oh
my
my
grandkids might
gosh.
be watching this, but I
Oh,
was not immune to having a good time and enjoying my off time, and generally kept my nose clean. Stayed off the blotter, and never got arrested.
amen.
Didn't always make great decisions, but you learn from it. And one of the things I used to like to laugh about is senior NCOs are the world's biggest hypocrites because we will rip Joe's ass up, down, and all around about the same crap that we used to do when we were their age. and not blink and not feel bad about it. And you know, let's face it, that's a reality.
You're right. We were such hypocrites. But we were also the same generation that would stand outside, refuse to put our hands in our pockets, and tell the privates to stop shivering. It's not cold. It's crazy the
Yeah.
time that we spent.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. Did you have any? Did you have any quirks? Did you have anything you was known for? Did the soldiers make do impressions of you or anything like that?
If they did, I don't remember it. I know early, like as a battalion CSM and even as a first sergeant, we used to have some fun at soldiers' expenses during promotion boards, and you know, I think as I got older, I kind of started moving away from it. But there was many years where promotion boards were as entertaining for the first sergeants as it was for. Actually, it was a lot more entertaining for us than it was for those coming to the board. But if we were giving somebody a hard time and having a laugh at their expense, the one thing I will tell you though is we made sure to take care of them when it came to the board. But I have had a lot of soldiers come back to me and say, God, I remember, my sergeant promotion board and you did this. And, I was petrified, and we're having a good time at their expense. But the end result, I would never, have a good time at a soldier's expense and then, flunk them out of the board or whatever. So, we were pretty smart about how we did it. But, we definitely probably weren't the, highest level of maturity that maybe I aspired to later in my career. So.
So it's interesting the power that you have as a battalion
Yeah.
CSM, and you suddenly realize it. It's like, well, and then somebody's egging you on, and who's. I don't want to say it like
Well,
this. I don't want to say but you have a good idea before everything starts. Who's prepared for promotion and who's not prepared for promotion, and before they even walk in, you're like, don't mess around with this guy. He'll lose his mind.
yeah,
Or we're going to
yeah.
get this guy good, right? Hey, look, I was present one time when for some reason the sergeant major checked the guy's ID tag, right, and on the religion line it had water skier, and he kicked the guy out of the board.
You said something earlier that is that I want to hit on a little bit. So you talked about like the power and authority of a battalion command sergeant major. So, most of us, when we decide to make the Army a career, I think, I would say most people, their goal would say like, man, I'd love to be a battalion command sergeant major. So when I finally achieved it, I got assigned to 3280A in the 31st Brigade, and I spent about 4 months with the brigade sergeant major, and honest to God, I can't think of his name to save my life. But he was, I think he was getting ready to retire. So they brought in a new brigade sergeant major, and he was my classmate from USASMA, but he was selected for the brigade, and he moved into the position. And about the day after he took over the position, I went up to see him, and he's at his desk and he's typing on his keyboard and, busy doing something. And I'm standing there waiting for him. And my whole purpose is just to kind of welcome him, maybe give him a sit rep on the battalion and, see what he needs and get out of his tail. And he finally looks up and he says, we can have a conversation when you get to the proper position. I said, and I looked down, I looked at my rank. I said, I'm not standing there parade rest for you. And he said, so you're going to disrespect the office of the brigade command sergeant major. And I said, well, I've never really heard it referred to as the office of the brigade command sergeant major. And I will show you nothing but respect, but I'm not standing there parade rest for you. And he said, well, Sergeant Major, I guess I'm going to have to fire you. And I said, well, Sergeant Major, let's get something straight. I said, you can't fire me because I don't work for you. But if you feel this strongly about it, we can go see your boss right across the hall. We can get this settled right now. And so let's just say our relationship didn't get off on a great foot. And it was a challenge. And it was a challenge. And that is as tame as a story as I can tell you, because it was one of those things that I kept telling myself, I spent my whole career to become a battalion command sergeant major, and I got to deal with this, really awful leadership. And it was very taxing. But thank God Steve Rogers called and threw me a lifeline and sent me off to Colorado and got me involved in the space business, which obviously was put me on a different trajectory that never would have happened without Steve Rogers. I think possibly safe to say he probably identified some friction and thought, there might be some gas left in Ross's tank. Let me see if I can get him in a different environment. And thank God he did.
So, isn't it interesting as a leader? Like you're talking about taking care of a soldier at a battalion CSM level. That's actually kind of easy to do in a way, compared to finding the soldiers that are in the weeds that you need your help, right? Do you remember a time where you had to
Yeah.
go get a soldier out of jail or in the
Yeah.
hospital or take care of somebody? And
Yeah, I got a great story for you. So I was a battalion command sergeant major, and we had a soldier that was a transition soldier who was in AIT, but he was already assigned to our unit, and he was a sergeant. And he went out, got drunk. I think he ended up in his neighbor's place on post. I believe he might have urinated on the neighbor's wall while he was inebriated. And let's just say he got an ARCA 15 while in AIT, but on our books. So my boss and I are taking the heat for it, even though we had never met this individual. So he comes to us, former sergeant, SHORAD background, combat background, but he comes to us and he's an E4. He's been busted down in rank. But we don't even send him to an air defense unit. We send him to the S4. And, it's kind of one of those deals where you just go work in the S4. We don't want to see you. We don't, you're basically, you don't take your top performers and put them in the S4 if they're an air defender. And I think you understand what I'm talking about. So over the next year and a half, we'd go to the field and we've got different training events going on. And I'm always watching soldiers. And this E4 who had now quit drinking and learned from his mistake, but he was the hardest working son of a gun in the entire battalion. He knew how to do all the field craft. He knew how to fix anything. And he was just, instead of like being upset that he was put out to pasture in the S4, he was bringing chicken to the picnic every time we did something. And I was like, this guy is really impressing me. And I think he's got potential, even though that terrible start to his, joining for my driver. And I told the commander fought me tooth and nail. And I said, listen, if it doesn't work out, you can say, I told you so. I'll take that. But I'm telling you, it's my decision. It's my driver. And this is who I'm picking. So he comes up to the command group. And within about 6 months, the battalion commander is like, this is the best damn soldier in the entire, battalion. He's, on the spot. He's early on everything. He's on his job. And as it turned out, the battalion commander, who wasn't the most forgiving individual in town, ended up loving this young soldier. And the soldier is a graduate of the United States Army Sergeant Major Academy now and is retired. And I'll just leave it at that. But I don't want to put his name out there because I don't want to put his baggage from his early days. But I mean, it was like, and he and I found each other at different phases of my career over the years. So I watched him go from E4, E6, E7, E8, first sergeant, sergeant major's academy. It was just amazing watching it. And again, that's one of the things that I'm really proud of, that I could see beyond, on the other side of the wall. I could see the blind spot and recognize the potential and understand that people aren't perfect. And just because somebody's made a bad mistake doesn't mean, they're not salvageable. They're humans, they're people. So,
Amen. Amen.
sorry if
Tell
that was
me
a long story.
about the. No, that's awesome. Tell me about the officer corps. How has the officer corps affected you, and what wonderful officers we have, right, in our air defense branch
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was at the Space and Missile Defense Command or Space and Missile Defense Conference Symposium last week in Huntsville, or 2 weeks ago in Huntsville. And we've got two generals bouncing around that I knew as lieutenants. And they're both 2 stars, and they're both running double AMDCs. So, talking about, but at the Space Battalion, and he was a former 160th Special Ops Black Hawk pilot, former Ranger Special Forces, became a space officer, and he was one of the most brilliant leaders I ever served with. And just last year, he was promoted to 2-star, and he's the first Army space officer to be promoted to 2-star. Never happened before. I worked with General Dickinson at the 1-star level, and now he's the first air defense general to make 4-star. So my nickname now is Kingmaker. It's
Amen.
a joke.
Amen. Hey,
So,
amen. I love it. I
but
love it.
I had a battalion commander, Jimmy Jenkins. He lives a mile from me here in Huntsville, and we get together all the time, and we're still tight. There's something about a relationship. I don't care if it's a platoon sergeant and their platoon leader, if it's a first sergeant and their commander. You're always connected, and and it's not always roses. Sometimes you have some struggles, but I've been very fortunate, and I've had a lot of commanders at different levels over the years, and I could probably tell you on the ones that I may have struggled with, you know, 2 or 3. Um, Other than that, and we're probably talking 30 officers over the years. So, we've got some good ones, both in the air defense branch, and there were some great ones in the space field too.
So they say there's no, atheist in the foxhole. Tell me a little bit about your spirituality. What is it that kept you going on the dark nights and when you have to do notification and realizations that your soldiers have been injured or passed away? Is there something that keeps you on track?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just your standard Protestant, Christian, believer in Jesus Christ. But it helps to have faith to ground yourself, and it helps me. I believe it was Kevin McGovern used to say, faith, family was the first 2 things you'd see even on like his coin, and I think those 2 things are what grounded me as a leader. And obviously, I've spent 7 years of my career in the Middle East, and some of it in Iraq, some of it in Afghanistan, and I was at Kobar Towers when the bomb hit back in the mid '90s, and so I've seen really challenging times where real heroes are not going home to their families, and what keeps you going really is going to be your faith, your family, and your fellow soldiers.
I'm waiting for you to come back. There you go. So tell me about your golf game. What's your handicap?
The lowest I got down was about a 3, and I think right now it's between a 7 or 8. So a lot of it comes with how much free time I have. So I've been in a busy stretch. There's been a lot going on both with work and family. So we've had a busy summer, but I like to play. It's probably the one thing I do that's really just for me. Really, the rest of my existence is involved, with whatever's going on with my family or whatever my wife needs. So, golf is my one escape, and an occasional, little bit of bourbon doesn't hurt once in a while either.
Amen. So tell me about your golf gear. What clubs do you use? Tell me about that.
I spent years as a time using Srixon X5 irons, and I've got all ping woods and driver 5 wood and hybrid Vokey wedges, SM9s, and a really nice Scotty Cameron X12 putter. So, it's one thing about retirement. You can afford good golf clubs.
Yeah. So the
Yeah, my
new
golf
Saudi
clubs cost
league's
more than
going
my
to give.
first car.
Yeah, right. So the new Saudi league, LVI, offers you 10 million to play on their tour for a year. You going to go play?
Yeah, they'd probably have to twist my arm, but I'd probably make that happen. So.
Right. Yeah, you probably would. You probably would. Oh my gosh.
You know,
So
I've,
what
I've been
type
playing my
of
whole life though.
golfer are you?
What's that?
So are you
I missed that.
a high fade? Are you a draw kind of guy? What's your shot shape?
Yeah, definitely a draw, and I can't hit a fade to save my life unless it's a mistake. And one claim to fame: I've never had a hole in one. All these years of golfing, been close, never had a hole in one.
Oh, wow. You'll get there.
Yeah,
You'll get there.
trying.
The golf is a great game. You can play golf your whole life. It's a really,
when
really
I
fun,
when I was
relaxing
retiring,
game.
and you're trying to figure out what you want to do when you retire from the military, like what do you want for your career? I used to watch these Lockheed guys, and they were business development guys, and all I ever seen them do was play golf, and they were all retired colonels, and all I ever seen them do was play golf, drink, and eat steak dinners. And I said, I'm going to do business development when I retire. And so that's what I did. And then I actually, after a year with a small business, I ended up getting hired by Lockheed Martin, and I was working for Lockheed Martin Space doing missile defense programs, business development. And then eventually I moved over to the international team where I was working with my old battalion commander from Iraq, Todd Morrow, and we were on the Middle East North Africa team selling missile defense to the Saudis. But the one thing I learned about business development was the steak dinners and the golf is literally 1% of what you do. And the 99% is really hard. And you've got to learn the process, and you've got to figure out a way to go out there and make money for your company. And but I got sick of spending 2-3 weeks a month in Riyadh with Lockheed. So after about 5.5 years with Lockheed, I moved over to a company called ForcePoint, and it's formerly Raytheon Cyber Solutions. So now I work from home. I travel when I want to. I make more money, and I sell cyber software from home. So my quality of life is way up here, and my stress is way down low. So it's worked out well.
Amen. Amen. Well, good for you. Good for you, right? It's awesome to have options, right? Our government job and our pension and the years that we put in allow us to do other things and live certain lifestyles once we've gotten out. If you had to go back right now and put on a uniform and stand in a formation, where are you going and what unit is it going to be?
Oh, wow. 75th Rangers. I mean, if I got to put the uniform back,
Okay.
might as well do it big, and they'd get a kick out of me because
Badass.
I never jumped out of an airplane, but you know. But it's like Ralph Borja, he got inducted. He was my SAR major when I was in the Space Brigade or Space Battalion at SMDC, and he just got inducted about a year and a half ago into the Ranger Hall of Fame, and he's a multiple Purple Heart. What I told Ralph was, I said, one of my biggest regrets is I've never been inducted. Biggest regret is never going to Ranger School. That's a joke.
Amen. Amen. That's a joke.
That was a joke, Will.
I missed it. Maybe the connection was bad, and so I missed the story. I didn't even know what you said, but I know you said your biggest regret was not going to Ranger School.
Yeah, I said my biggest. How's the connection? Are we okay?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
Okay. So I said my biggest regret was never being inducted in the Ranger Hall of Fame, and my second biggest regret was never going to Ranger School.
Oh, you're bold, man. You're so funny. I was telling somebody about how much fun we had hanging out together in Tuscaloosa not long ago. That was so much fun. Oh my gosh, it was a blast.
Epic. Epic.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So you're going back in the 75th, and are you going to go to Ranger School if they let you?
But
Oh my gosh, I missed your whole answer. I saw you were talking, but I didn't hear anything.
yeah, I don't know what's going on with the signal, and I apologize. But I've had both my knees replaced, so I think my Ranger days are.
Oh wow, both.
Both of them.
Oh no, 2 knee replacements. No fun.
Yeah.
No fun.
But any soldier who served with me knows that I used to be a running fool. I could run pretty good, so I think I just ran the cartilage right out of my knees.
Yeah, one of the things, if you're a runner, the Army's just that much easier. Just that much easier if you're a runner. Because if you're not a runner, it's that much harder because you got to run. Yeah. You got to run.
Yeah. You kind of got to embrace physical fitness, or it's going to be a really long career.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. So, did you have any nicknames as a kid?
Not that I remember. My brother got a nickname after we got out of high school. Everybody calls him Shooter, but that's a story for another day.
Amen. Amen. Dude, did you have nicknames when you were in the Army? I've heard people call you Jimmy or Jim.
Yeah, I don't love Jimmy. So if they were trying to get under my skin, they probably called me Jimmy. And if I had any other nicknames, I don't know what they are.
What was your favorite weapon that you had while you were in the Army?
Probably the 9mm, because it was the only weapon I could shoot expert with. I could never shoot a 300-meter target with the M16, so I think the 9mm was definitely my favorite.
That was something, right? Like when we got computer ranges and we actually used to go to the range and the computer would score you, it was like, oh man, I better practice a little bit.
Yeah, every range was a new adventure.
I was just lucky I grew up and was good at shooting. I didn't ever have any issues. I was always, on the expert land, whether I shot expert or not. And the prone unsupported position is a lot harder than if you slip a couple of sandbags and shoot it prone supported. Just so you know.
Nice. You got to come up and shoot
Just so you
with
know.
me and Kevin up here in North Alabama.
Oh, y'all shoot like 20 miles, man. And friggin' y'all are going over the top of airplanes with your arcs and stuff. And the ting from the steel takes 10 minutes to come back and you to hear it. So, like if you had to go to battle today and you had to go pick a weapon and go, what are you carrying out of the house?
Probably a saw.
You don't have a saw in the house.
Oh, what am I doing in the house? I got one. I got one weapon in the house. It's in a safe. It's a 9mm Smith and Wesson. I thought you were giving me a choice.
Oh no, cool. A saw's good. A saw's good. I like a saw's a unique weapon, right? Because it can take a magazine, and it can take belts, and it's very functional. It's a very functional weapon. It's not that heavy. Absolutely, good choice. Good choice. Good choice. So, what was your favorite uniform? You came in during BDUs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Probably the Desert Storm Deserts. I probably like those the best.
That's old school deserts right there. The chocolate chip ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I don't know. I think maybe the reason I liked them is it was the first time I got to change out of BDUs and wear something different. So
it's like a costume change. It's like we're live action role playing and we get to change costume.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think of the new uniforms? Yeah. The new dress uniforms? They're pretty wild. The World War II pink and greens. I think they're awesome.
I love them. I love them. I'm a huge fan. Man, I saw Foley wearing them. I was like, wow.
Yeah, they're pretty impressive.
Right. Isn't he the ultimate poster boy for the Army? Yeah. Yeah. The uniform looks really, really good.
Really, Foley's coming to SMDC.
So what is it?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, I did. I told a few people that I thought he might get picked up for a Sergeant Major of the Army. I don't know how that stuff works, but he is one of those super duper guys, and I'm so proud of him. Yep. We went to ANOC together. We were in the same ANOC class together, and that's where I first met him. And me, him, Burnley, Ranger Dreyer, the current Space Command Sergeant Major, black
Dodson,
guy with a beautiful friggin' smile. He was in the same class with us. We were all in the same ANOC class together. It was a wonderful class. And anyway, I don't even know what I was talking about. But what wasn't our Army schooling amazing? You said you was an ANOC chief, right?
No, I was a senior instructor at PLDC. I was actually at BNOC for one class, and then I shifted over to PLDC. I was a senior instructor there for probably about a year, and then I got selected for E8 Master Sergeant, and obviously I wanted to be a first sergeant, so they were going to send me to 35th ADA Brigade, and I went down. I met the CSM at the 35th, and he told me he was putting me in the S3 shop, and I could work there for a year, and then he'd give me a first sergeant position. So I was talking to Wilbur Adams, who was a post sergeant major at the time. He was asking me if I was ready to go to 35th, and I just mentioned that I wasn't going to be taking a battery right away. And he said, well, give me a day. I got to work on something. And the next day he called me and said, you're not going to work on somebody's staff. You're going to 3280A, and you're going to be the first sergeant and go see Sergeant Major Wolford. And again, sometimes things like that happen to you, and they really can help change your whole trajectory. But
Hey, that's for sure.
that was
That's
pretty
for
cool, and
sure.
I will always appreciate Sergeant Major Adams doing that for me.
Hey, look, so many amazing, blessed people that we were around throughout our whole career, and to this day, it's amazing to me how small the air defense community is, and now it seems it's getting closer and closer to Huntsville every day,
Yeah.
and bigger in that area. And it is it's a neat thing to be part of a branch in the army that is defensive, right? We can do what we do and fire our weapons and be the good guys, right?
Yeah.
It's possible that we punch off and
Mhm.
protect. And so that's a neat proposition. So it's exciting to see our new capabilities come into play and to see what's happening all around us. I do not pray for war at all. It makes me think of some of those hardest days, like when I found out Blankenbeckler,
Mhm.
DeVore, and some of the other folks that we lost to war. Tell me about your longest day. Tell me about one of those days that was really tough for you.
Yeah, it was Easter Sunday, 2004, and I was over in Iraq, and I was out on patrol with a group with 4580A, and we were out on MSR Tampa, and I won't go into the whole details, but we ended up getting ambushed. We got into a pretty significant firefight. We had an Apache come in to provide support to us, was shot down about 100 meters from our position, lost two pilots right in front of us, um, and literally ended up in an ongoing fight for like the next 12 hours. And it was definitely my longest day, and 100% adrenaline, um, scared to death, but um, it's what you train for, but stretch. We lost the two pilots. Convoy, and we got them with our folks, helped them get turned around and get them out of a kill zone. And it was just one of those days where we could not stay out of fire. It was when West got to do. I was surrounded by people a hell of a lot braver and better than I was, but it was an experience. I'll just put it like that.
Did you find yourself, ducking or hiding from bullets that were hitting around you? Did you find yourself pulling the trigger and shooting at people or things, or
Yeah,
trying
really.
to defend yourself?
Yeah, all of the above. I actually got pinned down behind a canal, and I was with two others. And the first individual jumped over the canal to head back towards our vehicles, and he missed the jump and ended up in the canal. So me and the other individual, we jumped over the canal and then had to pull the other individual out of the water. And then the three of us made a run for it, and it was literally bullets flying all around us. And we really didn't feel safe until we got back to the vehicles and at least had some type of structure in front of us. But it was definitely a close call. And then we had mortar coming in on top of us. It was the day from hell. But that's what it was
Oh,
like back
wow. Well,
in Iraq
thanks
in
for
'04.
sharing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right. That's the wild, wild west over there. It
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
was nutso,
yeah, yeah. And
nutso.
they were trying to kill us, and we were trying to kill them, and that's you know but that's what you do.
Yeah,
It's a
it
great
is.
unit.
It's what you do,
And,
I guess. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
first cat
So looking
4588
back on that,
Warriors.
time and those people, and I guess it wasn't your time. I guess it wasn't uh, your time, but apparently it was the time of at least two pilots,
Yeah,
and what they were up there, helping you guys, right?
yep, yep, yep. Never forget.
Do you do you remember performing a memorial service like as a first sergeant?
Um, I know we had a bunch in Iraq for our unit, and as the operations sergeant major, I was obviously heavily involved. Um, but they're brutal, absolutely brutal.
Oh wow. Oh
But you
yeah.
got to do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. When when um when we started this, I sent you kind of a list of questions and things. Is there anything that maybe we haven't hit yet that you might want to hit, or some thoughts that you might have that we haven't touched on?
I got a few notes, but I feel like we've um, talked through them. I kind of used your checklist as a guide, but
Well,
hopefully the audio
I love
wasn't
it.
too bad.
I
I'm concerned that the audio was coming in and out the entire time, and I hope it wasn't.
Oh, it has. And that, I tell you, it has hampered the flow a little bit. It's been tough. I honestly don't know how it's all going to come out. I really don't. We might have to have a total replay of this. Might have to. I don't know. But I
Okay.
tell you what, it has been fun. I have enjoyed it. I have absolutely enjoyed it. I think one of the things that we're missing is that the connection problem has caused the humor to be really, really dampened, and I'm sad about that. I totally am. Uh, what I was wondering, maybe if we could close this out, is you could think of, we love to hear our leaders call us to attention. I would love to hear maybe you think about calling your old unit to attention, and any words of wisdom that you have as we sign off, and anything, I'll give you the last word.
Yep. Well, I'm going to ask you to give me a pass on the attention because my wife is already in bed and she has to get up at 4. So, and I will wake her up if I yell attention. But as far as words of wisdom, one, I just want to say thank you for doing this. This is such a neat treat for all of us within the community to connect with folks that we've served with, and you've done a phenomenal job putting this together. And to all the leaders that are currently serving in the force that might possibly watch this, if I could leave you with some thoughts, is focus on being a good communicator. Um, and then a lot of people like to gravitate to their strengths, and I think one of the things that really helped me is that I would continually look for my weaknesses and I would work and put the work in to improve those weaknesses, and just try to sustain those strengths. So, but I think that's all I've got. But I can't thank you enough for doing this, and we'll see how the audio comes out. And if we got to do a rerun, we'll make that happen. But proud to
I
be
love
here.
it. Well, I salute you. I salute you, Sergeant Major, first to fire. Ready in defense. I appreciate it very much. Airborne all the way, and we'll sign off. All right.
All right, secure the high ground.
Amen.